my name is Michael and welcome to a new GTK tutorial. Today we are going to move on with our GTK window and we are going to learn new things. As you can see, we are going to learn about icons, different kinds of icons, and the way you create them or you set them. So basically it is they are just icons names. They are icons which you create them yourself. They are different kind of icons which you basically can create or work with. So I'm going to start with the GTK window set default icon. It is a function which returns void and takes as argument, as you can see, a GTK pixbuff. Sets an icon to be used as fallback for windows that haven't had GTK window set icon called on them from a pixbuff. About the GTK pixbuff itself, we are not going to talk too much. The only thing which you need to know it is that the information, the GTK pixbuff structure is just an information that describes an image. In other words, this structure contains information that describes an image in a memory. Anyway, we are not going to talk about this. We are going to need a function which is called GTK pixbuff new from file, but it is not, you don't find it here in the GTK pixbuff structure. Instead you will find it in the file loading. So just type file loading, I forgot G whatever, and yes, let me go a bit back because so right here you see file loading, GTK pixbuff reference manual file loading right here. I had to click on it, and as you can see here we have loading a pixbuff from file. In other words, description says the GTK pixbuff library provides a simple mechanism for loading an image from a file in synchronous fashion. So this means that the library takes control of the application while the file is being loaded. From the user point of view, the application will block until the image is downloading and so on. Anyway, it is not time for us to talk about it, but we need its very first function, which says it's a function which returns a pixbuff. Takes two arguments. The first one, it is parameters. The first one is the name of file to load in the glib file name encoding, and the second one is the error where returns the location for an error. Okay, so in other words, we need to call this function. Before we call it, we need to create a GTK. We need to declare GTK pixbuff pointer. So we are going to do it right now. And I'm going to say, of course, pixbuff. Oh, you know what? No, icon. And then we need to call this function. And as you can see, it says needs two files. It needs two arguments when you call it. The first one is the name of the file, and the second one is the location. So in other words, to make it work, we are going to make some work here. So I'm going to say GTK logo. I'm going to click on image. Don't be afraid because it is in German. And now I'm just going to download this one. So right click on it, save image as. I'm going to say GTK minus logo, and I'm going to bring it. As you can see, it goes right in the GTK window itself. It is right here. So I'm going to copy this name to have it, and now because I have it in the same place where my main function, source code for the main it is, now basically I can say const gchar icon name, and then we pass GTK minus logo.png. And now because we have it, and now because we call the GTK pixbuff from file, basically now we are saying icon name. This is very important. The next thing which we need, as you already noticed, let me close this one right here, it says we need a G arrow just to check for errors. So in other words, we need to declare a gerror variable, which we need then we need it later to check it. It takes a little bit of time, I don't know why, but as you can see, it is a structure which has three childs. The first one, it is the domain, the second one is the code, and the last one is the message, which probably can give you some information. So in other words, I'm going to set gerror and then error, and I'm going to point to null, and now with the help of its address we are going to get some information. Now let's say if icon is equal to null, then print some error, or better say we have some error, and then why not %s error, and the thing which we are going to print will be the message, which you saw it right here. It is the human readable information error, because else, and here because we have it now, we can basically call the GTK window set icon and pass our icon which we did create it. Now if everything works fine, let me compile it and run it, and we have a problem. Yes, const not con. As you can see, we have our window, and here on the text bar, as you can see, we have the logo which we decide to put it, which means works fine. Now let us see what happens if we pass something which doesn't exist. So for example, an icon which we don't have it. Let's see if the error checking prints something for us. And as you can see, it says we have some error, and then says file to open the file GTK logo la la la, no such file or directory. So as you can see, everything works fine, which means our program work fine. Okay, so basically this is the way how you work with GTK window set icon, set default icon. Sorry. Let me mark it as done. The next function will be GTK window set default icon name. It is right here and says it is a function which returns also void, takes one argument or parameter in this case, and says sets an icon to be used as fallback for windows that haven't had a GTK window set icon list. Call on them from a name temp icon. So see the GTK window set icon name. Okay, we are going to check this one as well, but it's not the case right now. So in other words, if I'm going to call this function right now, and I'm going to drop the GTK big stuff story right here. I'm going to hide it, and now it says it needs let me go back, a name of the template icon. So in other words, if you pass this one right here, like I'm doing right now, which is a name from an icon which you basically have it in your, yes, the error I need to. So now watch what happens if you pass the icon name. You see, we had nothing to be created, and this function doesn't really help you too much, because it doesn't create you a mechanism of working with error checking. So in other words, you can pass everything here, and if it's working, it will be printed. If it's not, it's not. So this is a dangerous function. I mean, it's not a dangerous function, but it is a function which actually doesn't really let you to follow the C rule of checking for errors and so on. So in other words, you need to know exactly what you need to provide. Of course, we already know that there are some ways to work with. One of them, for example, it will be to work with icon name specification. Here you have all those icons which are provided for your distribution. In other words, if you go here and you follow the canonical, or you just scroll here and you see you have a lot of them, no matter which one you choose. If you choose one of them for you, it will be fine. So let's say media playback start. I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to replace icon name with this string. Remember, it should be a string, okay, like this one. Now if I'm going to compile it and run it, you will see that the icon works fine, at least it should work fine. This one, of course, we don't need it anymore, not now at least. So I'm going to compile it again and run it, and then you will see on the text bar, you see we have the icon of the media player start. In other words, you can change it to stop or whatever, which kind of information you want to work. You see now we have the media player stop. Of course, there is the next thing which is important for you. If you don't have the GTK3 examples, then just go to sudo apt get install GTK -3, I think was, let me see, yes, examples. And after you install this one, nope, after you install this one, you see, and my computer is already installed, so just do GTK, I think 3, yes, icon browser right here. And now you have all these icons right here. You can choose one. For example, I'm going to choose media, webcam, and once that you click on it, basically you get the information which you needed. In other words, you just need to hit the copy to clipboard. And now if we go back to our program and change the media player stop with the camera web, which we got it, now you see our window has an icon which uses camera web as its icon. Basically this is the way how it's working. Now let me close it because it's not important right now. It is important for us to know how exactly works. Okay, so that being said, this is everything about set default icon name. I'm going to mark it as done, and the next function, it is called GTK Window set default icon from file. It is a little bit similar to default icon. It's just you create it from a file and not from a pixbuff. In other words, if we locate this function right here, GTK Window set default icon from name, from file, sorry, it is a function which takes also two parameters. The first one is the file name. This time is not a pixbuff like in this case, but the second thing which it is important for you, it is that I forgot to say something here when I said that it's important for you to pass the right icon. When I said that it is quite dangerous, it is because you cannot check with this function if this one really exists. So you need to make sure that the name really exists by checking it before you pass into the function, and then you are fine with it. Anyway, as you can see, this function takes care of that problem. In other words, sets an icon to be used as fallback for Windows that haven't had GTK Windows set icon list. Call it on them from a file on this. So warns on failure if error is null. In other words, if we call this function, which also returns a Boolean, as you can see right here, which means we get something true if setting the icon was succeed. So in other words, we are going to say something like this. I'm going to comment this part, and I'm going to say if GTK Windows set default icon from file, and here we are going to pass the icon name, which we use it on our pixbuff, and the second it will be the error, which means we are going to pass the error as well. So I need to add the error also. Now I'm going to say gprint the icon was set, and now we know. Else set something went wrong. %s. Let us check it. What exactly went wrong? Error, and of course, as you already know, the code, the message. Now, what do we have here? We basically have an icon name, which is called in this case GTK logo.png. We are passing as first parameter of the GTK window set default icon, and second will be our G error, which saves an error if something goes wrong. And all this information we are passing into an if statement, and we are checking its return because the G boolean. And if it's true, then the icon was set will be print. If not, the something went wrong, and it will be print exactly what went wrong in our case. So let's see. We have an icon. As you can see, the icon is right here. The icon was set, which is fine. And now if we pass something wrong, let's say an icon which doesn't exist, it says something went wrong, and then we get the error message, which probably, as you already noticed, PNG works fine as expected. So that being said, let me mark it this one as well, and as done. As you can see, this is the way how you set default icons, and this is the way how you create those default icons for your system. The next video which it's coming, we are going to talk about setting icons, not default icons, just setting icons, icon name and from file. That being said, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.